Story starts with Secretary Yoon Seo-ha and her boss, director Kwon Do-yoon. He asks what she wants him to do, they share a brief kiss, and she asks to get closer, but instantly regrets everything and wishes she could turn back time to before that night. In the present, Yoon tells the director that their baby is gone, meaning nothing connects them anymore. She begs him to let her go and thinks to herself that she must end this relationship now before she ruins his perfect life. Then we rewind to how it all began. Yoon enters Kwon's office with a report, and he immediately scolds her for being late. She explains she organized it carefully, and he shuts her down, saying he never asked for that. Cold boss mode activated. She apologizes again, and reminds him they need to leave for a forum in Jeju and the car is waiting. As he puts on his suit, she fixes his pocket square, and completely loses her mind because he smells good, and is way too close. Her heart races, her thoughts disappear, and he just turns around and tells her to leave, while she looks emotionally defeated. In the car, Kwon suddenly asks if she changed her perfume. She says she does not wear perfume and offers to change her body wash, and he tells her to forget it because it is distracting. "Sir, please breathe." At the event, people whisper about how handsome he is, and we learn he is famous, powerful, rich, and absolutely out of Yoon's league. He is her long-time secret crush of 2 painful years, and she is sure he barely notices she exists. Then Kang Hyungmin appears, Kwon's old classmate and rich heir. He flirts with Yoon, compliments her name, complains about how difficult Kwon is, offers emotional support like a drama lead, asks her out for a drink, refuses to accept no, hints that he knows embarrassing stories about Kwon's past, and just when things get awkward, Kwon shows up out of nowhere and roasts him by saying he still acts like a dog chasing everything in sight. Kwon coldly says Chairman Kang sighs every time he sees him because of the non-stop scandals he causes, asking if he still cannot separate work from pleasure. Then he turns to Yoon and says they need to leave immediately and head straight to the airport. Kang laughs and says Kwon is misunderstanding things, claiming women approach him because they like him, and that it is not his fault he is so charming. Kwon shuts that down instantly, saying they like Kang's money, not him, then leaves with Yoon while Kang mutters to himself that Kwon is overreacting because he touched what he thinks is his property, calling it embarrassing, and promising that he will cross the line with Yoon no matter what. In the car, Yoon sits in front, thinking about the heavy rain, when Kwon interrupts and asks what Kang said to her since they talked for a while. She replies that it was nothing important, just that he was his high school classmate, and Kwon immediately corrects her, saying they only attended the same school and never even spoke, warning her to ignore anything Kang says in the future. She agrees, thinking that the director has been in a heavy mood lately. She then receives a message saying all flights are cancelled due to the storm, and she calmly explains that she will book a nearby hotel so they can leave in the morning. At the hotel, Yoon finishes check-in and tells Kwon his room is on the 21st floor, but he stares at her for a moment and tells her they should go together, leaving her confused about his mood. In the elevator, a woman and her children squeeze in, making it so crowded that Yoon is pressed against Kwon, and she apologizes awkwardly because she has no space to move. Back in her room, Yoon finally relaxes, but cannot stop blushing about being stuck to him like that, then reminds herself to quickly wash up and deliver his new suit since tomorrow's schedule has changed. In Kwon's room, he thinks maybe Yoon did not mean to act that way, since she is not bold at all, and right then she knocks, enters, and politely says she brought his suit and shoes. He tells her to leave them and go without turning back, but she continues explaining where she placed everything and mentions the flight issue, only to realize he has fallen asleep. She thinks he must be exhausted and notes it is her first time seeing him this defenseless, telling herself to leave, but she cannot look away. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and asks if she enjoys staring at him, shocking her into apologizing. He tells her it is fine, saying it is not the first time she has looked at him like that, admitting he would be blind not to notice her blushing every time their eyes meet. At first, he did not care, but eventually it started bothering him, and now he cannot ignore it, so he has been wondering whether to send her far away, where he cannot see her or keep her close until he is tired of her. He then calls her full name and calmly asks what she wants him to do. She starts wondering if he is drunk, testing her, or if he maybe feels the same way. And the only thing she knows for sure is that in this moment, the director wants her, even if that feeling disappears by morning. She gathers her courage, tells him she wants to go through with it, and decides she will see this to the end. He lightly teases her about being bad at kissing, and the two spend the night together. The next day at the board meeting, her brain is completely useless because all she can think about is what happened. That afternoon, Yoon enters Kwon's office with a summary report. They exchange a few words, and he casually asks how her body feels. She says she is fine, and he replies that she must be, since she is working normally. She suddenly drops a bomb, saying last night was a mistake, that it only happened because of the atmosphere, and that it will never happen again. She asks to forget everything as if it never happened. Kwon calmly says he expected that answer and asks if there is nothing she wants from him. She says she did not get close to him expecting anything in return. He pauses, then says even if she wants something, she should say it, money, gifts, jewelry, almost anything, because that is the only way he can justify crossing that line with her. Yoon asks what he means, and Kwon calmly wonders why she is shocked, reminding her that since he could not send her away, he plans to keep her around until he gets tired of her. She is about to say he already did enough the night before, but he cuts her off, saying that is only because someone fell asleep first and he was not satisfied. She nervously reminds him they are still at the office, and he smirks and asks why she thinks he gave her work right before clocking out, explaining that at this hour, only 2 people are allowed in his office, and it is just them. Things cross the line again, and later Yoon falls asleep, while Kwon quietly gets dressed and looks at her, thinking how ridiculous it is that he ended up like this with Yoon Seo-ha, when there are many women out there, even more impressive ones. So why her? He realizes he noticed her feelings from the very start, because her awkward behavior made it obvious, and he ignored it since it seemed unimportant, but her easily reddening neck, her strange scent, and now even the way she looks at him keep bothering him. He once planned to send her far away so she would never appear in front of him again, yet somehow they became tangled like this. After crossing the line once, he finds it hard to stop, and just as he finishes thinking, Yoon wakes up, and he casually tells her they will talk later, because it looks like he needs to wash up again. At work, Jin-ah checks on Yoon and asks if she is okay because she looks completely worn out, and Yoon laughs it off saying she could not sleep, she is fine, and just has a lot on her mind. Jin-ah immediately blames work stress, saying Yoon has been doing overtime non-stop, and that the director is honestly too much, calling him a full-time slave driver. Yoon panics and quickly changes the topic, making Jin-ah drop it, while Yoon wonders if her situation is really that obvious. Since that day, she has spent almost every night with the director, and a whole month has already passed. She wonders how long this will last, knowing the longer it goes on, the more she will get hurt, because every time she sees that look in his eyes, her resolve collapses. He clearly does not love her, yet it feels like he wants her. Jin-ah suddenly snaps her out of her thoughts by asking if she is free this weekend, and Yoon says she has no plans. Jin-ah's eyes light up as she suggests a blind date, explaining that a guy saw Yoon's photo on her phone, fell instantly, and has been begging to meet her, adding that he has a good background, a solid job, and looks great. She asks if Yoon is seeing anyone, and when Yoon says no, Jin-ah insists they would look perfect together and suggests dinner this weekend, but right then, they spot the director. He calmly tells Yoon that after meeting the chairman, he will head straight to the airport, and she should come to the lobby in 20 minutes, then walks away like nothing happened. Jin-ah freaks out, asking how long he was standing there, because she thought he was already on a business trip, and Yoon explains that the chairman must have summoned him. Minutes later in the car, Yoon sits quietly while Kwon drives, asking where the driver is, and he replies that the driver is waiting at the airport, and she can return with him later. Yoon feels like his tone is unusually cold today, then tells herself she is imagining things and should focus on work, since he has another secretary anyway. So why is he driving her himself? She eventually falls asleep, and Kwon looks at her and smiles. She wakes up to find they are already in the parking lot, startled, while he calmly asks if she slept well. She apologizes for dozing off and offers to walk him in, but he tells her to stay in the car since the driver will arrive soon. Before leaving, he hands her a black card and tells her that when he returns in 3 days, he will only attend a dinner and go straight home, arriving before 9, so she should come to his place and wait for him, and make sure she gets enough sleep so he does not have to hear complaints about being a slave driver. He leaves, and Yoon sits there stunned, realizing this is starting to feel way more serious than she expected. Yoon returns to the office feeling heavy, thinking that although she has delivered documents to the front of the director's house many times, she has never actually gone inside, and now he invited her to his house instead of a hotel. And since he is coming back on Saturday, with Sunday free, her brain starts imagining a whole weekend together. Before she can spiral further, she hears someone calling for her, walks in, and freezes because it is the director's mother. Yoon greets her politely, hides the black card like her life depends on it, and answers questions about Kwon's business trip, casually mentioning his return time and free Sunday, which makes his mother very happy. The mood shifts when the mother says she wanted to tell Yoon first, explaining that Chairman Kang from Daekyum Group contacted her to arrange a marriage meeting between his daughter Yena and Kwon. She is clearly thrilled, talking about how Yena fell for Kwon at first sight, already calls her mother, brought gifts, is beautiful and polite, and how this match would secure Kwon's future as the top boss, while shading the useless eldest son on the side. She says the meeting is basically a formality and asks Yoon to give this special attention, reminding her to make sure Kwon wears the custom suit she will send. Just before leaving, she casually asks if Kwon is seeing anyone, and Yoon says no, earning a relieved smile, and a warning that no strange women should complicate things before the marriage. The mother thanks Yoon warmly, praising her for lasting where other secretaries could not, and says she will be counting on her in the future too. Days later, Kwon finally returns, stuck at a long dinner with men arguing that ability matters more than birth order, while he keeps checking the time, clearly desperate to go home. He finally escapes, gets home, and thinks Yoon must be there waiting like always, probably asleep again, but when he enters the bedroom, all he finds is a neatly placed suit with a note, and the silence hits harder than expected. Kwon reads the note and realizes it is his suit for the marriage meeting tomorrow, scheduled for 2 p.m., at the L Hotel on the second-floor restaurant, and the letter clearly says that from today onward, Yoon will no longer see him for personal reasons, she will pretend nothing ever happened between them, stay completely silent, and hopes he rests well. Back at Yoon's apartment, she eats but suddenly gets a stomach ache, confused because she did eat properly, then checks the time and assumes Kwon has already read the note, and since he did not contact her, he must have accepted it too. She tells herself this ending is for the best before her feelings grow deeper, just as her phone buzzes with a shocking notification, a deposit of 300 million won. Shocked, Yoon rushes to Kwon's place and demands to know why he sent that money, and he casually asks if he needs a reason. She says she cannot accept that amount without one, and he coldly replies that she should think of it as payment for the nights they spent together. She is hurt and tells him he did not need to go that far, she would never cause trouble or expose anything, so the money is unnecessary. He calmly asks why he should trust her, reminding her that this was not a one-time thing. They were together almost every day, so what was her reason? The truth hits her hard, she stayed because she liked him, because her heart shook every time he looked at her, and when she finally admits it, he tells her that is exactly why she should take the money, because he did not feel the same way. And this way, everything stays clean and fair, saying money is more reliable than feelings that can change anytime, and if the amount is not enough, she can ask for more. Yoon walks home feeling completely crushed, knowing she expected the ending but not this cold, the warmth from last night now gone, her chest hurting like it is being torn apart, thinking this is really how it ends. We jump into a flashback where Yoon is still living at an orphanage, getting bullied badly by jealous girls who even pushed and hit her because boys liked her. To avoid more trouble, she stayed outside in the freezing cold until they calmed down, thinking that since her parents already left her, maybe struggling so hard just to survive was pointless. Just then, a man appeared and gently covered her with his coat, saying her clothes stood out from far away, so he thought she was waiting for someone urgently. He guessed she ran out from the orphanage and told her that running away would not change anything, that instead of giving up, she should build strength, endure, survive, and one day stand tall, because sinking into despair would not make anyone understand her pain. She quietly said she would go back inside. He lightly tapped her head, and walked away like a mysterious hero. Days later, she learned his name was Kwon Do-yoon, and that he had visited the orphanage for a sponsorship event that day. Years later, she met him again, and even though he did not remember her at all, just watching him from afar made her heart and nerves go wild. As his secretary, she discovered he was a cold man who cared only about work, yet pushed himself harder than anyone else, and the man who unknowingly changed her future with a few honest words slowly became the center of her world. His sharp eyes, deep voice, long fingers, and quiet presence all became reasons she fell deeper for him. In a world that had always been harsh and cold to her, that brief warmth meant everything, and now she knows she has to let it go. Back in the present, Kwon sits at a restaurant, clearly bothered by recent events, when his mother calls to remind him about the meeting, checking if he has left yet, and he replies that he has already arrived, making her relieved as she happily says it would be hard to find better conditions than this match in the future. Kwon dreams about Yoon boldly asking to get close to him, and he wakes up confused, wondering why on earth his brain would create a dream like that. The next morning at the office, Jin greets Yoon and immediately notices her puffy eyes, offering to grab ice for a cold compress, but right then Kwon walks in. They greet him politely, and he walks past them like a walking iceberg. Jin loudly complains, asking if smiling would actually hurt him, and even asks Yoon if he feels colder than usual today, while Yoon just says she does not know. Inside, Yoon worries he might notice her swollen eyes, then almost laughs at herself for caring, thinking maybe this is better, because now she can clearly see she means nothing to him, and can finally let go without regrets. In Kwon's office, he keeps thinking about Yoon and gets annoyed at himself for losing focus over something so pointless, deciding that if this keeps bothering him, he should just transfer her to another team. But then he gets a call from Yena. She cheerfully says she was thinking of him and asks if he has lunch plans, and he shuts it down saying he has a schedule. She tries for dinner, and he says he will be working late before hanging up. At lunch, Jin eats with Yoon and asks why she is drinking lemonade instead of tea, and Yoon shrugs saying she has been craving cold, refreshing things lately. Nearby co-workers start gossiping about the director and Yena being seen together at El Hotel, saying they dated in college, and that becoming Daegyeng Group's son-in-law is basically winning the lottery, while others argue Yena is the lucky one because of Kwon's looks and skills. Jin whispers that she feels sorry for the woman marrying such a cold man, saying she would suffocate living with someone like that, and Yoon quietly ignores it all and says she needs to stop by the hospital. Yoon visits the doctor and explains that she has been feeling bloated for days, keeps gagging without actually throwing up, feels unusually heavy, and has zero energy, and before giving her any medicine, the doctor calmly asks if there's a chance she might be pregnant. Panic mode activates. Yoon rushes to take a home test and nearly drops it when it comes back positive, even though she has always been careful, and she starts spiraling, thinking about that one time in Jeju, and wondering how this could even be possible. She tells herself not to jump to conclusions and decides to visit a specialist after work for proper confirmation, but her brain is already screaming, what if it is real, what is she supposed to do, and how would she even face the director? She convinces herself to act normal for now, especially since things at work have finally gone back to being professional, and his marriage is already planned. She goes to Kwon's office with meeting minutes, and of course, he flips through them and immediately criticizes her, asking if she fell asleep during the meeting because the notes become a mess halfway, and the numbers are wrong. She apologizes and says it was a mistake, instantly realizing she just used the excuse he hates the most, and he shuts it down, saying with her 2 years of experience, this is not a mistake, but a focus problem, asking if she is not embarrassed to brush it off so casually, then orders her to rewrite everything and do better. She accepts it quietly and returns to her desk, where Jin asks if they should leave together, but Yoon says she still has work to finish, so Jin leaves. Not long after, Yoon starts feeling dizzy and decides to rest her head for just 5 minutes, but in Kwon's office, He notices she has not returned with the revised work and goes to check, only to find her asleep at her desk, leaving him completely confused because of all people, Yoon is the last one who would ever ignore instructions and sleep on the job. Kwon thinks to himself that even though he and Yoon spent the night together, she still shows up at work looking flawless. Lately, however, she keeps fighting sleep, which is strange because she has never looked tired during work hours before. He then remembers the drive to the airport, when Yoon suddenly opened her eyes, got shocked seeing him, and wondered if she had fallen asleep again. Just then, Yoon walks in and calls his name, making Yoon wonder if this is the woman the chairman mentioned. Kwon asks Yoon why she showed up without calling, and Yoon casually says he mentioned working late, so she brought dinner. She then notices Yoon. Yoon greets her politely, and Kwon tells Yoon to go home. Yoon reminds him that she still has the meeting notes, but he says it is fine and sends her off. As Yoon is leaving, Yoon stops her, asks if she is the director's secretary, and asks her name. She then smiles and drops a shocker, saying she is marrying Kwon, and that they will probably see each other often. Yoon stays calm, says they will meet another time, and leaves like nothing happened. Kwon immediately lectures Yoon about basic manners, and says she should call before coming over. Yoon argues that they are getting married, but Kwon shuts it down by saying not yet, and adds that even after marriage, he would still find that behavior unpleasant. He then tells her to leave because he is busy. Yoon stays confident, says she knows his heart is not open yet, but she has plenty of time, apologizes sweetly, tells him to eat the food, says she will text him when she gets home, and leaves. Meanwhile, Yoon is at the gynecologist, thinking that Kwon and Yoon look perfect together, imagining them having dinner, or spending time somewhere fancy, then telling herself to stop thinking about it. The nurse calls her in. Just when you think the scene is over, Kwon, sitting in his car and wondering why Yoon will not leave his thoughts, looks up and sees her at the same clinic, and that is when the dramatic manhwa music kicks in. Yoon is at home reading a book. She closes it and looks outside, and it is still raining. It looks like it will rain all weekend. It has been a long time since she had such a peaceful weekend, and now everything finally feels settled. She picks up her pregnancy handbook and wonders if she should tell the director, but then remembers what he once said and thinks to herself that a child from a meaningless night would never be accepted by him. She recalls what the orphanage director once told her, that she was abandoned in the middle of winter with her umbilical cord still attached and nearly lost her life, and she wonders how a mother could do that. Maybe that is why winters have always felt lonely to her, but she promises herself she will never be that kind of mother. No matter what happens, she will protect her child. With that resolve, she writes her resignation letter. The next morning, she hands the letter to Kwon. He asks for her reason, and she calmly says the job is not well suited for her anymore. She apologizes for the sudden notice and assures him there will be no disruption in work. She adds that she will properly train her replacement and complete the full handover. Inside, she wonders if she said everything naturally and if he will accept it. Kwon then says he has one question and asks why she went to the gynecologist. She is shocked that he knows. She tells him it is a personal matter, and not something he should be concerned about. He asks again if she is sure it does not concern him. She cannot answer. He stands up and asks if the question is difficult, saying that if it truly has nothing to do with him, she should be able to answer in one sentence. Seeing her freeze, he realizes his guess is right and asks again. Knowing there is no escape, she admits she is carrying his child. She says it would have been discovered sooner or later anyway. She promises she would never do anything that could harm him, says she will not ask for money or cause any trouble, and insists she will take full responsibility and keep it a secret for life. She even offers to sign a contract if he does not believe her. Kwon says he does not know whether she is being smart or foolish, because instead of asking for something huge, all she wants to do is run away. He accepts her resignation for now, says she cannot continue working while pregnant anyway, and sends her home. As Yoon walks back, She overthinks everything, wondering what the director could be thinking, knowing he would never want anything that could become his weakness, and questioning whether she reassured him enough that the child would never interfere with his life. Just then, Kang suddenly drives up beside her, calls her name, and says he finally found her. Yoon greets Kang, and he asks if she is heading home from work. She says yes, and he immediately tells her to get in because he will give her a ride. She politely refuses, saying it is fine, but he ignores that, says she does not look well, and tells her not to push herself, so she gets in. He drops her off, and she says she will get out there and thanks him for the ride. He looks around and comments that she lives in a more modest neighborhood than he expected, then casually asks if Kwon is treating her well. She asks what he means, and he bluntly says she knows Kwon is marrying his sister, right? She says she knows. He then asks if Kwon at least gave her any consolation money. In her head, Yoon wonders if Kang knows something, but decides he is just assuming things, so she says she has no idea what he is talking about. Kang laughs and says she does not need to hide it, because from what he saw, it was obvious she and Kwon had that kind of relationship, and that this is how the world works, dating on the side and marriage separately. Yoon cuts him off and says, with all due respect, she should leave now. Kang scoffs and says Kwon is cold, but he did not know he was also cheap, then suggests she give him, Kang, a chance instead. Yoon begs him to stop, and he proudly says he is not the kind of man who pretends nothing happened, unlike Kwon, because he has responsibility. Yoon says she will pretend she did not hear any of that, gets out of the car, and leaves. Kang watches her go and thinks that for a secretary she is acting way too proud, and wonders if General Manager Lee has her number. Meanwhile, Kwon is driving and replaying Yoon's words in his head, thinking how even after their night together, after he sent her money, and even after she realized she was carrying a child, she never asked him for anything. He calls her pitiful, tells himself they are simply walking their own paths, and wonders why he is so angry, and what he should do about the child. At a family dinner, an older woman happily says it is nice to have everyone together, and asks if Kwon's sister-in-law is unwell, because her complexion looks dull, and she should take better care of herself. Kwon's mother agrees and says she must be stressed about the marriage, since the Daekyong group chairman likes Kwon so much that he wants to skip the engagement, and go straight to the wedding, and the schedule is insanely tight. She apologizes to Youngwook, saying it looks like his younger brother is getting married first, but Youngwook smiles and says it is a happy occasion. Their father jumps in and tells Youngwook he should hurry and find a partner too, and Youngwook obediently agrees. Kwon's mother happily says she will arrange a good match for him as well, then praises Yena endlessly, saying Kwon has no idea how lucky he is to have such a virtuous and well-mannered bride. As everyone is smiling, Kwon thinks to himself that he will regret this moment one day, and just like that, he stands up and drops a bomb, saying there is something he needs to say, and that they should consider the marriage talks with the Daekyong group completely cancelled. Kwon is driving and replaying what he told his parents about cancelling the marriage with the Daekyong group, clearly saying he will take full responsibility for any trouble that comes from it. His mother panics and asks what he is talking about, and he calmly says he will explain everything later because he has something urgent to handle, then leaves like a full-on drama lead. Back in the present, his phone keeps ringing because his mother is already stressed, and now there is a mountain of chaos to clean up. There is even a chance he could be kicked out before facing his father's terrifying temper, but he tells himself he refuses to become like the father he deeply despises. Meanwhile, Yoon is at home staring at her food, saying she cannot eat anymore, but still forcing herself to take a few bites when her phone suddenly rings. She checks and sees it is Kwon, and immediately wonders why he is calling at this time, because should he not be at a family gathering? She answers, he asks where she is, she says she is home, and he tells her he will be there soon because he has something to say. She asks what it is, but he says he will explain when he arrives and hangs up, leaving her stressed and confused. Her thoughts spiral, remembering how he once said he does not trust emotions because they are unpredictable, and she starts to fear that for someone like him, the safest way to deal with an unexpected situation like this is to erase it completely. Kwon arrives outside her place, and Yoon goes out to meet him. He asks if she lives there, she says yes, and he looks around, saying the place is about 13 pyong, which she calmly agrees with. Then he suddenly tells her she needs to move out as soon as possible, completely shocking her, and making her remember Kang's words. She asks why he is really here, and he says he has something important to say, and since the decision has already been made, it is best to move forward quickly. She firmly tells him she has no intention of giving up this child, that she understands his concerns, but she promised this would never cause trouble for him, and no matter what decision he makes, she will have the child and raise them herself. Kwon calmly asks how she plans to do that, saying raising a child is not simple, she will not be able to work for a while, she already resigned, her income was small to begin with. So what money will she use? What happens if she gets sick? Who will take care of the child? She has no family to rely on, and her house looks like it might fall apart if someone breathes too hard. He asks if she is truly confident she can raise the child comfortably, and just as well as anyone else, saying that if she is, she should do it on her own, but if not, she should listen to him. Then he drops the biggest plot twist of all, saying that before coming there, he already spoke to his family, told them he is not marrying King Yena, and that instead, they should get married. Yoon stares at him and asks what he is even talking about. Kwon calmly says the first thing they need to do is move her somewhere else, because a child cannot grow well in a place like this, and it is better to sort everything out before rumors start spreading. Yoon says she honestly does not understand a single word he is saying. He asks which part is confusing, and she answers, all of it, because none of it makes sense. Kwon says there is a child involved now, so taking responsibility is the obvious thing to do. Yoon fires back that this only applies to normal couples, and they are not one, they just spent a few nights together, so getting married because of a child makes no sense at all. Kwon says he does not see what part is strange. A child exists, so what more reason does he need? Yoon asks him directly if he loves her, or at least likes her a little. He asks if that really matters right now, and explains that in marriage what usually matters is family background, money, status, and ability, and the only reason strong enough to outweigh all of that is the child she's carrying. Yoon realizes that he wants to marry her purely out of responsibility. She thanks him for being willing to take responsibility for the child, but before she can finish, he cuts her off and says this is not something to be stubborn about. He tells her that if she truly cares about the child, she should think practically, not emotionally, and carefully consider which choice is best for the child. He adds that she does not need to come to work anymore, because things will get noisy very soon. Back at Kwon's house, his parents are waiting. His father asks if there is any word from him, and his mother says she will try calling again. A maid suddenly walks in and announces that the director has arrived. Kwon enters, and his mother immediately asks what is going on and whether he fought with Yena. Kwon calmly explains that there is a woman carrying his child, and that Yoon Seo-ha, his secretary, is pregnant. His mother is shocked and asks if he really means his secretary. He says yes, and adds that he intends to take full responsibility for both her and the child. He admits it was unexpected, but he has no intention of avoiding it. He says he knows this situation must be confusing, but he hopes they will understand his decision, and that he plans to rush the wedding and hold the ceremony before the year ends. His father coldly says it seems he expected too much from him and walks away. His mother begs him to think again, asking if it makes any sense to cancel his marriage with Yena because of Yoon, and tells him to apologize to his father and go through with the original marriage. Kwon asks what he is supposed to do about Yoon then, whether he should abandon her like his father once did, or tell her he will not take responsibility and force her to get rid of the baby, just like his father once demanded from his mother. His mother freezes, remembering those painful words from the past. Kwon apologizes to her, and says that no matter what she says, he has no intention of changing his decision, and he hopes she will let go and give her consent, then he leaves. Meanwhile, Yoon is lying on her bed, replaying every word of her conversation with Kwon, and after a long moment, she finally picks up her phone, calls him, and says she wants to see him right now. Yoon goes to see Kwon, and he asks what she wants to say. She hesitates, then asks that if she is truly certain about her feelings, is it really possible for her to marry him? Kwon replies that if it were impossible, he would not have brought it up in the first place. She points out that the chairman and the chief director will probably oppose it, and he calmly says he will handle that. She just needs to choose what is best for her and the child's future. Yoon admits that if it were only her, she has lived well on her own and believes she could continue to do so, but when it comes to the child, she is not confident, because no matter how hard she tries, there are many things she cannot provide alone, and that scares her. Kwon says he does not see what is so difficult, because she already gave her answer. After a moment, she agrees. He says it is decided then, the wedding planners will handle everything, she does not need to worry about a thing, he will take care of the ring, and before she can process it, he leans in and kisses her. Meanwhile, Yena is looking at rings and wondering which one Kwon will choose, when Kang suddenly walks in. She tells him to look at the time and asks if he drank too much the night before. He snaps back that he did not drink for fun, it was for business, and she does not know everything. He asks if she plans to see Kwon today, and she says yes. He then casually asks about Yoon, which surprises her, and he explains that he met Yoon during an event on Jeju Island. He asks if Yena can get Yoon's number for him. Yena asks why she should, and Kang smirks, saying he will be honest, it bothers him that such a pretty woman is around Kwon, so he will step in for her sake, calling it a win for both of them. Just then, their father calls, and Kang tells Yena to say he is at work. Yena thinks it is annoying, but admits he might be right, and realizes it bothers her more than she expected, so she answers the call. Back at the office, Yoon thinks to herself that Kwon said he was busy with outside schedules, but he is later than expected, and she only came in to finish the handover work. Jinna walks in and asks if Yoon remembers the man she mentioned before, because he has been asking about her several times and even suggested they all eat together. Yoon says she is not in a position to date anyone right now and hopes Jinna can pass that along gently. Jinna apologizes, and Yoon admits she will be quitting soon. Jinna asks why, but before she can answer, Yena suddenly walks in, calls Yoon's name, walks straight up to her, and lashes out. The fiancé sits quietly in her room and answers a phone call. Her face slowly changes as confusion turns into shock. She asks what they mean, then suddenly hears that the marriage has been called off. Her cheeks flush red as she struggles to understand. She asks why it happened so suddenly, and what went wrong. But the voice on the other end stays calm and tells her everything has already been decided. They tell her to move on because they will find someone better for her. Her hand begins to shake as she listens, her mind racing. This makes no sense. It was his family who pushed for this marriage, so how can they cancel it just like that? She bites her thumb in frustration and calls out to her mother, her voice cracking. Her mother responds in a low, uneasy tone, clearly troubled. The blonde woman steps closer, worried, and asks what happened. Then the truth drops heavily. The mother reveals that Do Hyun says another woman is carrying his child. The words hit like a blow. The fiancé freezes for a second before her face burns with anger, her whole body shaking. Then, without warning, she storms into the office and lashes out, striking our girl in a burst of raw emotion. Yin suddenly grabs our girl's hair and yanks it hard, raising her hand to strike again, as she demands to know if it feels good taking another woman's man. The second secretary in the office panics and questions what the blonde woman is doing, but Yin ignores her completely, her eyes locked on our girl as she lashes out, saying she should have gone for someone on her own level. The tension spikes as the door opens, and our guy walks in with quiet anger, asking what his fiancée thinks she is doing. Yin freezes and quickly lets go, calling his name with panic all over her face. He steps forward coldly and makes it clear that he is the one who ended the engagement. Then he pulls our girl close in a protective way, and warns Yin not to take her anger out on the wrong person. That only makes things worse, as Yin completely loses control, shouting in disbelief and questioning his choice, unable to accept that he would choose our girl over her, especially after revealing that our girl has no family background. Yin keeps going, saying Yoon Seo-ha only made it through school because of the SL Group's sponsorship, claiming she has nothing and accusing her of using herself to get ahead. Before she can continue, our guy turns sharply and warns her to watch her mouth. His voice drops cold as he makes it clear that none of that matters, because our main girl is now the one he plans to marry, and she is no longer someone Yin can treat carelessly. He adds that he is holding back out of respect for Chairman Kang, but if she crosses the line again, he will act, no matter their past connection. The room falls tense as he gently leads our girl out, keeping her close. Behind them, Yin breaks down, trembling as his words sink in. Her face twists with anger as she throws out more insults, saying our girl does not know her place and still dares to act boldly. She clenches her fists, vowing that this is not over, and that she will not let her go so easily. Next, we see them standing by the roadside. Do-yoon faces her with his arms crossed, while she keeps her head down, avoiding his eyes. He tells her to go to the hospital and get checked. She quietly agrees, brushing it off and saying she is fine and it is not that serious. He sighs in frustration and rubs his forehead, clearly annoyed, then questions why she even came to work, wondering if she really did not expect something like this to happen. She stays silent, unsure of how to respond, nervously playing with her fingers before finally speaking. She says she thinks they should reconsider the marriage, bringing up everything that was said earlier, pointing out that she has no family, no wealth, nothing to offer, and that it does not make sense for someone like him to marry her. She addresses him formally and mentions how people will talk and judge him, saying it would be better for his sake to stop this now. He cuts her off immediately and tells her the decision has already been made and will not be changed. She tries to push back, saying this is not something that can be decided so easily, and it is not enough for just the two of them to agree. He looks at her seriously and makes it clear that he did not come to this decision lightly, but the situation was urgent, and he had to act fast and choose without hesitation. She softly admits that this is not easy for him either, and that she is scared of people judging them. He looks at her and questions if she is really expecting approval from everyone before getting married. His tone turns firm as he tells her that if she cannot accept the situation as it is, then she should walk away now, because he will not tie his life to someone who is not willing to take a risk too. The scene shifts, and we see our main girl in the restroom, leaning over as she throws up. After a moment, she slowly wipes her mouth and struggles to stand, clearly drained. She thinks about how she heard the sickness would be tough, but she never expected it to feel this bad. She tries to calm herself, reminding herself that it gets better after the early stage, so she just needs to endure it for now. She looks at her pale reflection in the mirror and sighs, her mind drifting back to the office, remembering the blonde woman's angry reaction and disbelief. She then walks into a quiet room and picks up a small green box. Inside is a ring with a shining diamond. A flashback hits, showing the moment the director gently takes her hand and places the box in it, giving her a choice to either go through with the marriage or return the ring, telling her to come to him once she has made her final decision. Back in the present, she holds the box close to her chest, her expression filled with mixed emotions, quietly thinking about the choice she has to make and what it will mean for her future. A new day begins as sunlight spreads across the city. Our main guy looks at her luggage and asks if that is everything. She nods and says she only brought the important things, just like he told her. He glances at her briefly and tells her to come inside. As she steps forward, his earlier words echo in her mind about not choosing someone who is not willing to take a risk. She lowers her gaze, feeling ashamed of herself. In her thoughts, she criticizes her own actions, realizing he still chose her and the child even though this marriage could cost him so much. She cannot believe she acted that way in front of someone who made such a serious decision. She gently places her hand on her stomach and makes a quiet promise to herself. From this moment on, she will not show any weakness. No matter what happens, she will endure and push through it. Compared to everything he is risking, she feels like she has nothing to lose. They step into the house, and he calmly shows her around, pointing out each space as they move. He mentions the study, then the workout room beside it, explaining that they will stay here for now, at least until the child grows a little, and in a few years, they will move to a bigger place. She follows behind him, slightly overwhelmed, and says this house already feels big enough, questioning if they really need something larger. He continues without hesitation, listing the study, dressing room, and playroom, explaining that the child will need plenty of space. She grows a bit tense and quickly agrees. He then opens a door and shows her the room she will be using, speaking in a calm and practical tone, adding that if the space feels small, there is another room where she can keep her things. He tells her to inform him if anything feels missing or if she needs more. She quietly takes it in, realizing they will be staying in separate rooms. She responds politely, saying the room is more than enough and thanking him for being considerate. He nods and tells her to unpack and rest, mentioning that he has something to handle and needs to step out. Just as he turns to leave, she hesitates for a moment before asking when he will return. He tells her that he will be coming home late for a while, and there will be days he might not return at all, so she should not wait for him. Then he reaches into his pocket and hands her a black card, telling her to use it whenever she needs anything. He calmly explains that the housekeepers will handle cleaning and cooking, so she does not have to worry about any of that. As he turns to leave, he adds that she should contact him if anything comes up. Yoon Seo-ha holds the card and pauses, wondering if that means she should only reach out when something happens. She pushes the thought aside, gives a small smile, and tells him to be careful on his way. Kwon Do-yoon gives a faint smile back before walking out. Later, Seo-ha sits alone in the living room with a book in her hands, but her expression is quiet and heavy. She realizes this is her new reality, staying alone in a large house and waiting without knowing when he will come back. Slowly, she leans back on the chair, placing the book on her stomach as sleep takes over. In her half-dream, she hears a soft voice calling her name. She stirs and responds, calling out to him as if he is right there. Kwon Do-yoon quietly lies beside Yoon Seo-ha and wraps his arms around her from behind, pulling her close as he questions why she is sleeping in the living room when he told her not to wait for him. She reacts softly, saying it tickles, and he leans in, placing a gentle kiss, as he admits he missed her. Suddenly, the book slips from her hand, hitting the floor, and everything fades. Seo-ha's eyes snap open, as she realizes it was only a dream. She slowly sits up, rubbing her eyes, and calls out for Do-yoon, but the house stays completely silent. A small, sad smile forms as she murmurs that he only comes to her like this in dreams. The scene shifts, and Seo-ha walks into a small shop, the bell above the door chiming lightly. She looks around until she spots a familiar face. Her junior, Gina, quickly waves her over with a bright expression. Seo-ha walks up and sits across from her, apologizing for not meeting sooner, and explaining that they are only just finding time to talk now. Gina brushes it off easily, showing understanding and thanking her for reaching out. Seo-ha lifts her cup, takes a small sip of tea, then looks at Gina with a serious expression, bringing up how shocking everything must have been that day. The black-haired woman, Gina, breaks a small sweat and touches her cheek as she admits she is still shocked, saying she never expected the director to be the person Yoon Seo-ha was involved with, and she also had no idea Seo-ha was expecting a child. Seo-ha lowers her head and apologizes, explaining that everything happened so suddenly, and she was not in a position to tell anyone back then. Gina quickly shakes it off, saying she understands and she probably would not have been able to say anything either in that situation. Seo-ha thanks her for being understanding. Gina then hesitates, stumbling over her words before finally asking if Seo-ha is truly going to marry Kwon Do-yoon. Seo-ha quietly nods and says yes. Gina suddenly panics and tells her to forget everything she said before. Seo-ha looks confused and asks what she means. Gina immediately brings up her past words, recalling how she called Do-yoon a strict boss, and even said any woman marrying a man like him would be pitiful. Seo-ha can't hold back and lightly laughs, saying it is fine and that it actually helped her feel better hearing those honest thoughts. Gina, still embarrassed, quickly changes tone and tells her that if she ever has problems with Do-yoon or needs help, she should contact her anytime, adding that she will even scold him for her. Seo-ha smiles warmly and agrees. Back at the house, Kwon Do-yoon's mother sits with her arms and legs crossed, her expression stern as she asks where Seo-ha has gone. As the sun sets, a warm glow fills the house. Yoon Seo-ha walks in calmly, thinking she feels relieved knowing Ms. Gina is doing well. She takes off her shoes and notices a pair of high heels already by the entrance, making her pause for a second as she quietly gathers her thoughts. She holds her chest lightly, trying to stay composed. From the living room, Kwon Do-yoon's mother sits on the couch with a stern expression and asks where she has been. Seo-ha freezes in place for a moment, then greets her politely and explains she went out for a quick appointment. The older woman immediately presses further, asking who she met. Seo-ha stays respectful and answers that it was a junior she used to work with. The older woman notices the bag in Yoon Seo-ha's hand and coldly remarks that she seems comfortable, as if nothing is affecting her. She continues, saying she has been deeply troubled because of Seo-ha, unable to eat or sleep properly since Kwon Do-yoon announced he would end his engagement with Yena. She admits it was already shocking to learn that a woman was expecting Do-yoon's child, but discovering that it is Seo-ha makes everything worse. She says Seo-ha has no idea how unsettling and frightening that realization feels for her. She also recalls how Seo-ha stood in front of her politely saying yes, while hiding everything behind her back, which only made her feel foolish. Yoon Seo-ha slowly lowers her head, her hair falling over her face as she quietly apologizes. The older woman lets out a sharp breath and tells her to sit down. Seo-ha carefully takes a seat across from her, staying silent and tense. Kwon Do-yoon's mother speaks coldly, saying she does not want to accept this situation, but denying it will not change anything. She then drops a document in front of Yoon Seo-ha and orders her to sign and stamp it. Seo-ha looks down and reads it, realizing it is a prenuptial agreement. It clearly states that all real estate, personal assets, and financial property under Kwon Do-yoon's name will remain entirely his, even after marriage, and will stay under his control and ownership. It also states that Yoon Seo-ha will be responsible for the health and care of the unborn child. The prenuptial agreement continues, stating that the marriage registration will only be completed after delivery and after genetic testing is done. Yoon Seo-ha pauses when she reaches a harsh clause, which says that if the pregnancy ends in a miscarriage or stillbirth, the marriage will automatically be cancelled and considered void. Kwon Do-yoon's mother watches her closely and coldly explains that Do-yoon is only marrying her because of the child, and she should already understand that clearly. She adds that if the child is gone, then there is no reason for the marriage to continue. She also mentions that Do-yoon has already agreed to all the conditions written in the document. Seo-ha stiffens in shock, thinking that Do-yoon really accepted all of this. The older woman leans back with a dismissive look, saying there is nothing to question, especially since her son gave up the Daekyum group, so this should not be such a difficult decision. Seo-ha suddenly remembers Do-yoon's words about not betting his life on someone who is unwilling to take risks herself. Her expression slowly changes as she lowers her head and begins to sign the document. She silently decides that she has already made up her mind and no matter what happens, she will endure and get through it. The older woman watches her sign with clear irritation on her face. Yoon Seo-ha returns the signed document, handing it back calmly. Kwon Do-yoon's mother immediately warns her not to speak about the agreement to anyone and to stay silent about it, saying it is simply a precaution, like insurance. She then stands up to leave. Seo-ha looks confused and asks if she is really leaving. The older woman coldly tells her not to follow her and to accept the situation. She makes it clear that Seo-ha has no choice but to become her daughter-in-law, but she should not expect any warmth or treatment as family from her or Chairman Kang. She also warns her not to appear too much in public or damage Do-yoon's reputation further. Seo-ha lowers her head and quietly agrees. Later, Seo-ha sits alone at a dining table with small snacks placed in front of her. She recalls her junior who had given her the bag of food earlier, joking that it is a poor farewell gift, but promising to repay her kindness, because she feels deeply indebted. Seo-ha had refused, saying she is the one who received help. Her junior had brushed it off, telling her to eat well and take care of her health. Seo-ha softly thanks her again, promising she will eat properly. The junior nervously twirls her fingers and asks Yoon Seo-ha when she and Kwon Do-yoon started dating, pointing out how formal they still seem, and wondering when they actually developed feelings. Seo-ha pauses and admits she has liked him for a long time, but when asked about Do-yoon's feelings, she hesitates. She explains that even after observing him closely, learning his habits, work style, and daily routines, she still cannot truly understand him, whether he actually likes her or if everything is just responsibility. And she does not know what he is thinking at all. Back in the present, Seo-ha recalls Kwon Do-yoon's mother saying he already agreed to all the terms. She quietly eats the food the junior prepared, but her expression slowly falls. Even though she has become the closest person to Do-yoon now, she suddenly feels overwhelming loneliness, and tears start to fall without control. Later, Seo-ha falls asleep on the couch. Kwon Do-yoon returns home and finds her there. He gently lifts her into his arms and carries her bridal style, calling her name softly and noting that she is too defenseless in this house. Our male lead carefully places Yoon Seo-ha on her bed and gently touches her head as he pauses, thinking to himself that holding her like this makes it hard to stay in control, especially now that they are under the same roof. He goes to take a shower, and his thoughts drift, realizing he has started noticing her presence everywhere in the house, in every corner he can reach. He reminds himself that she is pregnant and needs proper care, yet he is surprised at how easily she occupies his mind, even more than he expected at this stage of his life. He admits inwardly that the house already feels filled with her scent, and if this continues, he might end up crossing a line he is trying to hold back from. Meanwhile, Seo-ha wakes up in her room, confused, realizing she fell asleep in the living room the night before. She sits up and looks around, wondering if Do-yoon carried her back. She gets out of bed and walks to his room, only to find it empty. She quietly thinks that he could have woken her up instead of leaving her there. Yoon Seo-ha sits in the hospital reception area waiting for her turn, when she notices a young couple nearby. The man gently pats his partner and cheerfully asks what she wants to eat after her checkup, joking about what food will make their baby happy, while the woman laughs warmly beside him. Seo-ha quietly watches them and realizes how close and natural their bond is, how easily they show affection and care for each other. That moment makes her reflect on her own situation with Kwon Do-yoon. She starts thinking that their relationship is completely different, and maybe he cannot find her lovable at all, which is why he keeps his distance. A nurse then calls her name and tells her to come into the examination room. Seo-ha slightly tenses up, stands, and walks forward while trying to steady her thoughts. She tells herself to stay positive and focus on the baby, promising to only think good thoughts for its sake. The doctor tells Yoon Seo-ha that the baby is growing well, and it will still take some time before they can know the gender. They show her the ultrasound and explain that the image is clearer than before. Seo-ha looks closely at the screen, softly saying yes, as she studies it. She is amazed by how much the baby has grown, noticing the face, body, tiny hands, and feet more clearly now. She remembers how small it was at the beginning and wonders when it became this developed. A warm smile forms on her face, as she keeps looking at the image. She gently asks if she can have one more copy of the ultrasound, and the doctor agrees. Seo-ha quietly thinks that if Kwon Do-yoon sees this, he might also start feeling attached to the baby in the same way she already is. Later, Seo-ha ends up falling asleep again on the couch. Kwon Do-yoon comes home and notices her, letting out a small sigh of relief. She wakes up and sits up quickly when she sees him, greeting him as director. He looks at her and says he thought she would still be asleep. She responds that she just woke up. Yoon Seo-ha nervously touches her face, as she admits it feels like a long time since she last saw Kwon Do-yoon. He turns away and replies in a cold tone, reminding her that he told her not to wait up, and that she should go to her room and rest. Seo-ha quickly stops him and asks him to wait, saying she has something to show him. She hands him a photo from a 3D ultrasound and explains that she thought he should have a copy too. She points out the baby's tiny hands and feet and mentions how clearer everything looks now. She adds softly that even though the face is not fully visible, she feels like the baby will grow up to be handsome and healthy. Do-yoon looks at it briefly and says it is still hard to tell from the image alone. Seo-ha agrees, then smiles and says she is sure the baby will be smart and good-looking, especially if it takes after him more than her. Suddenly, Kwon Do-yoon stops holding back his emotions. The photo slips from his hand as he leans in and kisses her. They kiss, and the moment quickly turns intense between them. After a while, Kwon Do-yoon pulls away and walks to his room, clearly shaken. He realizes he lost control just because Yoon Seo-ha smiled at him, and he questions why he is acting this way. He apologizes, saying he did not mean for things to happen, and that he could not hold himself back. Seo-ha gently tells him it is okay, adding that she actually feels relieved. She admits she has been worried lately, thinking he was avoiding her or no longer wanted to be around her. Do-yoon explains that he was holding back because he was afraid something like earlier could happen, especially since they need to be careful during pregnancy. Seo-ha lightly tugs his sleeve and tells him that the hospital said it is fine. The tension between them fades again, as they grow closer once more, their emotions taking over in the quiet night. The next day, Kwon Do-yoon sits in his office, leaning back in his chair with his hands clasped. He reflects on what happened and realizes things did not go as simply as he expected. He thought taking responsibility through marriage would be enough to handle Yoon Seo-ha's situation, but now it is affecting him more than he planned. He admits to himself that maybe holding back for so long is part of the reason. Even with his busy schedule and constant work, he realizes it is not enough to fix everything on his plate. Still, he reminds himself that regaining his father's trust is the top priority, and he cannot afford distractions right now. Back at the mansion, Seo-ha is sitting quietly in the evening light, knitting small baby clothes. A housekeeper approaches and politely asks what she would like for dinner. Seo-ha gently replies that she will handle dinner herself and tells the housekeeper to rest for the day. The housekeeper looks at what she is making and softly reacts, noticing she is knitting for the baby, surprised by how domestic the scene feels. Yoon Seo-ha softly explains that she learned a little knitting from a prenatal class at the hospital. The housekeeper responds kindly, saying it is good, then mentions that being alone in such a big house must feel lonely. She suggests Seo-ha turn on the TV, while knitting so time passes faster, and reminds her that there is porridge and salad in the fridge, telling her to eat even a little. Seo-ha thanks her for the concern as the housekeeper leaves. Seo-ha continues knitting alone and slowly realizes just how huge and quiet the house feels. She wonders how Kwon Do-yoon managed to live like this before. She turns on the TV and thinks maybe he did not mind, because he probably spent most of his time sleeping anyway. A reality show plays in the background, and one of the characters asks a question about whether there are any special secrets only between the two of you. On TV, the show continues as the narrator talks about how couples often calm each other down even during bad moods, especially when one of them acts playful or cute, and that kind of behavior helps prevent arguments. The host then asks a guest, Hyunju, to show a cute gesture, and she forms a heart with her hands, winks, and says she loves her partner in an overly sweet way. Yoon Seo-ha watches closely and thinks the act is simple but surprisingly charming, something that could easily attract attention. She quietly wonders if acting like that could make Kwon Do-yoon see her differently too. Her mind drifts back to his words about avoiding complications during her pregnancy, and she starts thinking that maybe he does not hate her completely. She considers that if she tries a little harder, things between them might improve. Later, Kwon Do-yoon enters the house using the door code and notices the living room is empty. He assumes Yoon Seo-ha is asleep and relaxes slightly. Just then, she suddenly jumps out from behind him and scares him. Our male lead turns toward our protagonist after she suddenly jumps out to scare him. She awkwardly admits she only wanted to surprise him and apologizes. He reminds her again not to wait up for him, but she explains she had something important to talk about. For a moment, she thinks she catches him smiling, then hesitates, wondering if she imagined it. She quickly hands him a small notepad and says she wants them to choose a nickname for the baby together. Do-yoon looks at it and questions the names she wrote. Seo-ha explains that one of them is a soft wish for the baby to grow strong and healthy over the next 9 months. He reads another name and repeats it, sounding curious. Yoon Seo-ha nervously explains that she thought the baby might have been conceived during their trip to Jeju Island. She recalls that the only time she was not careful was that first night there, so she connected it to that memory. She says she first thought of Halabong, but it felt too long, so she shortened it to Labong because it sounded cute. Kwon Do-yoon quietly realizes she is doing it again, unintentionally pulling him into emotional territory he is trying to avoid. Seo-ha quickly adds that it is still possible the baby was not conceived in Jeju Island, trying not to sound too certain. Do-yoon grows tense, thinking she is unknowingly testing his self-control again. He turns away from her and coldly says he only stopped by to pick up something and is leaving again. He dismisses the idea, saying the nickname does not matter, and she can name the baby whatever she wants. Yoon Seo-ha watches Kwon Do-yoon leave, and quietly realizes she had closed her eyes without noticing, feeling a bit embarrassed. Meanwhile, Do-yoon is in his room, standing in front of his closet, lost in thought. He admits to himself that if he had lost control just a little more, he might have crossed a line again. He questions why, whenever he is with her, his logic fades and only instinct takes over. He changes his clothes, trying to steady himself, and decides he should leave quickly. He comes back downstairs and sees Seo-ha still sitting on the couch. He tells her she should have gone to bed earlier, but she calmly replies that she will rest after seeing him off. He then informs her that he will be staying at a hotel near the company for a while. He adds that he does not know how long he will be busy, so she should not wait up for him. He thinks that keeping some distance might help him stay in control. Seo-ha simply agrees and tells him to take care. He turns away immediately and leaves. The door closes behind him, leaving Seo-ha staring at it in silence. She holds her fist lightly against her chest and whispers to herself that she will wait for him. Yena is seen at home crying uncontrollably over Kwon Do-yoon. Her father watches her and coldly questions if she is still acting like this. Her brother, Hyungmin, dismisses her behavior, saying she is always loud and dramatic. Their father sighs and tells Hyungmin to go comfort his sister, but Hyungmin refuses, saying she should be left alone and that she is overreacting at her age just because a man rejected her. This angers their father, who snaps back that Yena is not like him at all. He explains that she has only ever had Do-yoon in her heart for years, so she must be deeply hurt. He then vents his anger toward Kwon Do-yoon, saying harshly that if not for the company, he would have dealt with him already. Hyungmin smirks and steps past his father, telling him not to get so worked up in the morning and says he will go comfort Yena instead. The father laughs bitterly, warning that if Hyungmin truly cared, he should not have caused problems in the first place. Hyungmin casually responds, questioning why his father is bringing up old matters again. Hyungmin's father raises his voice, warning him not to use Yena as an excuse to delay work, and telling him to be at the office by afternoon. Hyungmin calmly agrees, bows slightly, and leaves with a casual comment under his breath about his father's constant nagging. He then goes to Yena's room and finds her still crying. He bluntly asks how long she plans to stay like this, which immediately angers her. She yells at him for barging in without permission and tells him to leave. Hyungmin smirks and criticizes her attitude, saying he came as her caring older brother to give advice. Yena throws a pillow at him and tells him she does not need anything from him and orders him out again. He pauses and then brings up Kwon Do-yoon, asking if she truly does not want him back. Hyungmin tells Yena to stop overthinking and start using her head, saying that no matter how much she cries, Kwon Do-yoon will not even notice. He adds that Do-yoon is not the type to be moved by emotions, and everything he does is likely calculated. He hints that there is a clear benefit behind the marriage with his secretary, which is why Do-yoon agreed to it in the first place. Yena, still emotional, asks what she is supposed to do now. Hyungmin calmly tells her to make Do-yoon feel like he needs her again. The scene shifts to Kwon Do-yoon at his office. He is looking at his computer when he sees a news headline about SL Construction being accused of improper dealings with officials in a redevelopment project. He reads the name Kang Yena and immediately reacts, thinking about the timing of the article. He suspects it may be connected to Daekyung Group, then pauses and considers whether Kang Hyungmin could be involved. Please subscribe, like and comment for part 4 and more recap stories. I hope you enjoyed watching. See you soon.